Hi guys, my name is Field Parsons and I'm a flight instructor here at the University of Oklahoma. Today, we're going to walk you through what a pre-flight inspection looks like for one of our Piper Warriors, part of our training fleet of aircraft we use to train our students here at the University of Oklahoma. Follow me. During all phases of flight, including the pre-flight, pilots use a checklist to make sure that they accomplish everything necessary to keep everyone safe throughout the entire flight. Let's walk through what we need to do to start our flight. Here on the side of the airplane, we have a handle and a footstep to make sure that we can get into the airplane safely. To hop on board the wing, we put our hand on the handle, our foot on the step, and then step up onto the wing. There are two handles that we want to make sure are open before we can get to the aircraft. One is here on top. We want to make sure this is all the way forward. And the second, down here at the bottom, is just like a car door handle. We can pull it, and then we can enter the airplane. Looking at our checklist here, the first item we have is aircraft documents. We have 4 things to check, and you can see them in the back of the airplane. The first is the airworthiness document that says that the airplane is airworthy and is safe to fly. The second is the registration, saying that the FAA knows what airplane it is and who it belongs to. And the third and fourth items are the operator's handbook and the weight and balance, both of which are found in a binder here in the back seat. The next thing that we're going to check is make sure that our avionics master or our radio master switch is turned off. We can see that is turned off here. We're going to set our parking brake by pulling this handle and pushing in this lock. It sets the brakes so we don't have to hold them with our feet as we're pre-flighting. The next thing that we're going to check is make sure that all of our electrical switches are turned off so we don't have any power flowing through the airplane and everything is indeed turned off. The next thing that we're going to check is our magneto switch. And our magneto acts like the key in our car. We want to make sure that's turned all the way off so the airplane can't turn on while we're inspecting it. And it is indeed turned off. The next thing that we're going to check is our mixture. That's this red handle here. We want to make sure it's all the way back, and that ensures that no fuel can flow into the engine while we're pre-flighting it. Now that all that's done, we can turn on our master switch and start checking things on the panel. So we'll turn on our battery switch, and we can see some things start to come alive here in the airplane. First thing we can check is our fuel quantity here. We can see that we have about 20 gallons on both sides, plenty of fuel for today's flight. And we check our annunciator panel, which gives us warnings in case some things aren't working right in the airplane. We can push this test button, and we can see that all the lights that we need turn on. The next thing that we're going to check are our interior and exterior lights in case we're going flying at night. So we have navigation lights, strobe lights, and a landing light in front. And let's walk around and go check and make sure those are all working. All right, so here we are on the right wing of the aircraft. There are 3 lights we're going to check, and let's look at them. The first we have here in the front is our green navigation light. It lets other airplanes see where we are in the air at night. The second here is our flashing strobe light. This is so other airplanes, both day and night, can see us easier, as well as air traffic controllers. And then here in the back is our white position light, also so other aircraft can see us in the air. And now let's look at the front of the aircraft. You can see here under the nose we have our landing light. This allows us to see the runway and the taxiways at night when it's dark outside. And now we'll move on to the left wingtip. And now we're here on the left wingtip. As you can see, it looks very similar to the right, except we have a red navigation light instead of a green, our same strobe light, and then our white position light here at the back. And now we'll head back inside the aircraft and continue our cockpit inspection. All right, so now that we're back inside the aircraft, we want to make sure and turn off all the switches that we just turned on. So we're turning our landing light, strobe light, navigation light, and battery master all off. The next thing that we're going to do is check our flight controls. So there are 2 primary flight controls that we check with the yoke, the elevators and the ailerons. The elevators make us go up and down, and the ailerons let us roll left and right. And they're both controlled by the yoke. If we push forward on the yoke, we see the elevator go down like this, and that lets our nose come down in flight. If we pull back on the yoke like this, we can see our elevator go up, which lets our nose come up and us climb in flight. The next thing that we're going to check is our ailerons. Our ailerons are on the tips of our wings, and they move up and down to let our airplane roll left and right. We can use what I call the thumb method to check and see that it's operating correctly. So if we take our thumb, give a big thumbs up on the yoke, if we point to the left, our left aileron should be pointed up, and we can see that it is. Now if we take our thumb and pointed over to the right with the yoke, our right aileron is pointed up and our left aileron is pointed down. And that shows that our ailerons are working correctly. The next thing that we're going to check are our flaps. Our flaps are a device on our wings that allow us to slow down without losing lift. And so we can check our flap panel down here and make sure that it operates correctly. We have 3 settings, 10 degrees, 25 degrees, and 40 degrees. We want to make sure that each of those positions hold still once we release it. And then as we walk around, we can check those on the outside of the airplane. Now our inside checks are done. Let's head outside and check everything we need to on the outside of the airplane. Come on. Now that we're outside the aircraft, the first thing that we want to check are our flaps. So we can see here we have our right flap, and we want to make sure that it's securely attached at all of its attachment points on the underside of it. We can push on it and get a little better view. The next thing that we're going to check is our right aileron. As we can see here, it has 3 attachment points on each side and in the middle. We want to check sure that the screws are tight, as well as our control rod here is correctly installed, which it is. And so we'll continue on. As we move around to the right wingtip, we want to make sure that everything is nice and secure and not dented, and it looks good. Now we're here at the right fuel tank, and we want to check and make sure that there's no water or other debris in the bottom of the tank that wouldn't be good for the engine. So we come under here, and we can drain some fuel out of the bottom of the tank. And if we look at it, especially against the white background of the wing, we can see that it's very blue and very clear. Blue gas is aviation gas, and so we're good to go fly. So we'll take this and pour it back into the fuel tank, close our fuel cap, and continue on with our pre-flight. Now that we're here under our right wing, we want to make sure that our landing gear is good to go fly. We want to make sure that our tire has enough tread on it and that it has enough air in the tires, as well as make sure there's no fluids leaking around the tire. There's not, so we're good to go. Now we're here at the nose of the aircraft. We're going to open it up and check inside. So the first thing that we do is we open up these latches here and then push the nose open to check the inside. The first thing we want to check and make sure is that there's no oil spills or anything loose in the airplane, making sure all of our fuel cables and everything are good. And once we do, we're going to check our oil, just like in your car. So we unscrew the oil dipstick here. As we pull it out, we can see that we have just over 8 quarts of oil, which is perfect for our flight today. So we can screw it back in, close our cowling, secure these 2 latches, and we're good to move on. The next thing that we're going to check is our propeller and our spinner. Our propeller is what allows us to move forward in the air. We want to make sure that there are no big nicks or cracks on either the front or the back side of the propeller. After that, we want to check our spinner. Our spinner is here in front, and it allows a smoother airflow around our propeller. We'll make sure that all of these screws are screwed in nice and tight and none are missing. They are, so we're good to go. All right, now as we're walking around, we want to make sure that our windshield is clear and free of any debris or any bugs, as well as that our front tire is nice and inflated. After we've checked that, we can move over to our left wing, which is very similar to our right wing. Now that we're here on the left wing, most everything is exactly the same. We're still going to check our tire and landing gear. We're still going to sump our fuel, but we have 2 additional things to look at. The first here is our stall warning horn. This allows the pilot to hear if the airplane is getting close to a stall. So as we're walking around, we push it up and we can hear the stall warning horn going off as long as the master switch is turned on, so we know that it works correctly. The next thing that we want to check is our pitot tube back here. What we can do is we can take off this cover and check and make sure that all of these holes are open and not clogged with any dirt or any mosquitoes or wasps or anything. The pitot tube allows a couple of our instruments on the inside to read our airspeed and our altitude. So we want to make sure that those are exposed so they can read correctly. And now we'll keep moving on. Our left wingtip is exactly the same as our right wingtip, as well as the ailerons and the flaps. So we'll move on to the tail of the aircraft to go over our next part of our pre-flight. And now we're at the very back of the airplane at the elevator. The elevator moves up and down as we saw earlier, and it allows the airplane to move up and down. So we want to make sure that all the screws and connection points are secure, just like we did for the flaps and the ailerons. And now move on to the rudder. The rudder here allows our airplane to turn left and right like this with the ailerons. And so we want to make sure that all of the connection points are secure along here, as well as all the radios are secure as well. And now we'll move on to the opposite side. So on this side, we're almost wrapping up with our pre-flight. We want to make sure that all of our radio antennas are nice and secure. And then we want to walk around and take all of the airplane tie downs, all the things that are holding the airplane to the ramp off so we can take off. After that, we'll do one final walk around the entire airplane to make sure we didn't miss anything. And then our pre-flight is complete. Thanks for joining us today on our pre-flight inspection of our Piper Warrior here at the University of Oklahoma. We're so happy you could join us for Student Flight Academy, and we hope to see you soon. Boomer!